Why don't you go ahead and call the roll, and let's see who's here and who's not.
Okay. Walt Boyer.
Here.
Jack Cumming.
Here.
Jean Hurley.
Here.
Bob Nagel. Bob Nicholson.
Right here.
Charlie Polk.
Here.
Bill Ratcliffe. Here. Jack Snyder.
Here.
Pete Straub. Barbara Trout.
Barbara's resigned.
Oh, sorry, I failed to cross her off my list. Ruth Walsh.
Here.
Kim.
I'm here.
Kim's here and Bennett's here.
Yes, sir.
Okay, good. Right.
Well, we have a quorum. Yeah, we got a quorum, and so I think we can go forward. The one agenda amendment is that we neglected to put in the treasurer's report, and we'll do that after the minutes if that's agreeable to everybody.
Sure.
So we got a roll call and a quorum, and how about the minutes? Do we have any corrections or additions to October 31 minutes?
Nope.
Well, yeah, I think you got a correction, but I don't know how to make it. This is Charlie Polk.
Yeah, Charlie.
As I understand it, neither I nor Bob Nagel was given an opportunity to vote in the election at the last meeting.
That's right.
For the officers.
Right, and so somehow or another you've got to correct that in your minutes.
We'll leave that up to Bill to figure that out.
Okay, so you would just like it recorded that was the case. Is that correct?
No, I don't know what you need to do. I think
what?
I don't have a solution for you.
Okay.
Well, there's two issues. The first, this is Bennett. The first issue is you had two sitting directors whose votes were not cast in the officer election.
Right.
Because they were not there on site. You don't know one way or the other if that would have changed the outcome of any of the officer election decisions. I think that's Charlie's point. Is that is an issue in and of itself. So that's, and then obviously based on that, then you determine, if you want to do something with that knowledge, and if you choose not to, that's up to the board at this stage. But then the minutes would need to reflect that their votes, even though you didn't record people's votes in the minutes, you should at least say that those two people didn't take part in that particular action.
Yes, I understand.
All right. Any other suggestions, Bill? Can you let the minutes reflect that?
I will.
All right. Now let's go. Go ahead.
It does call into question the validity of the election, which might arouse concerns in some quarters. So but I think we're stable for now, and we may want to revisit the election at when we gather in Washington at the peak meeting, because it'd be desirable to have that done at an in-person meeting.
Well, let's just say that for the minutes that you record what was just said, and that we'll revisit it at the March meeting in Washington, D.C. at the peak meeting.
Yes.
And certainly to reflect in the protocol that we have to be sure that we take those people who are on call or present but not physically present, so they can record that and make that their votes valid. If I'm making myself clear, which I'm probably not.
Yeah, and one of the problems in that hotel room there at the Westin on the waterfront in Boston was that the telephone connection kind of went in and out, and it was hard to. I mean, I was not monitoring the phone, but it was at a point or two we lost Charlie, and I sure as hell don't want to lose Charlie.
No, gosh, no.
Well, okay, we might ready to move on. Can we move on to the treasurer's report?
Yep.
This is Jack. I've got one quick comment. If we assume that both of those parties voted for other write-ins, would it affect the election at all?
The only thing it could do is reverse the role of Jack and Walt. Even then, there because you could vote optionally first or second vote for two people. It's hard to know I haven't worked out all the possible combinations.
But in terms of presidency, it wouldn't make a difference.
Oh, none whatsoever, no.
Okay, so that was really the intent of my question, and then you raised the fact that it might affect one of the other issues. Go ahead.
The fact that Jack got 6 votes for
right, so it doesn't affect him.
For his role of treasurer, no matter how many other votes we had, would not have undermined the fact that Jack got the maximum number of votes for the treasurer. What could have happened is you get the anomaly that Jack could end up being both treasurer and vice president, which obviously is not practical. Without going through the details, I would say that 2 extra votes would not change the present officers, and it would certainly not affect the outcome.
If it's appropriate to get it off the table for next time, I would suggest that we accept the vote as it was, with apology to the 2 members that did not, whose vote was not counted.
Yeah.
Is there a second to that motion?
I second it. Jean Hurley.
Oh, okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Move to the treasurer's report.
Okay, the treasurer's report will be very brief because I don't really have more current financials to share with you at this point, although the financials so far this year are quite healthy and running well. The main thing to report is that in the committee that Charlie chairs, it's become evident that we may lose large numbers of members from Washington State and from Illinois, and if we do, that would result in a drop in revenues of roughly $10,000 to $12,000. Now, some of those people would probably still continue to pay dues into 2 organizations, but I think that the board are fiduciaries for the viability of NaCCRA, so you need to be aware that there is the possibility that for 2016 there may be a substantial revenue drop, and that we need to be prepared to consider that.
Let me comment on that, Jack, if I may. This is Jack Snyder. I think that both of those are solvable if we take the position that we have something that we're really going to try to do this year in NaCCRA. And that relates back to your particular notes of yesterday, Jack Cummings, when you identified, what are some national issues that we can go after and single those out one at a time and go after them. That gives a sense of direction. The people of Illinois have the perception, and I think rightly so, that we were a dysfunctional organization, which we are now trying to get functional, which means we have a goal, we have a budget, we have a plan to go after that, and we can bring those attitudes around. And that's
the board needs to be aware of the possibilities. So there's no action needed now, but the directors as fiduciaries have to begin to consider how they would respond depending on how things may eventuate.
All right, this is the moderator again, and I want to say, Jack, your point about the fiduciary responsibility is very well taken. And Jack, you were right on target, and Bob now can report that he talked as late as last night to the president of the Washington State NaCCRA group, Helmut Goldie, who concurs with just what Jack said, and because he understands that we are going to take a step, and we must take a step in calendar 16 for some revenue sharing that will solve this problem, particularly with Washington State. But they have no interest in going it on their own unless such actions as Jack talked about, Jack Snyder and the membership group, finance group that Charlie's heading about revenue sharing. If that takes place, we're in good shape. But if it doesn't, we're in trouble. Okay, let's move on. Anything else on the treasury?
Can I just ask before we leave this? This is Jean Hurley. The people in Washington State and Illinois are paying NaCCRA dues, but they're not paying any state dues. Is that the situation?
That's correct.
Okay, and so we're thinking that they will not continue to pay NaCCRA dues because
no, that's correct. That's not correct. What they don't want to do is pay for a second organization where they can't see what the direction is, where they're going, and there's no issue. I mean, there's no incentive for them to pursue NaCCRA when they know what ILCRA is going to do. ILCRA is going to aggressively go after state legislators, but they don't see NaCCRA as doing anything. And what I said is, with what we accomplished on Monday, I think we have a new direction that obviously needs to be approved, and we can sell that.
Okay.
But it will result in less revenue going to NaCCRA, but at least they won't fall off.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. Let's. Anything else on the treasurer's report? Okay. Let's go to the bylaws. Bennett, can you demystify the authority to act between meetings and that issue, please?
Mr. Chairman, the next item is membership dues and structure.
Yeah.
Okay, I have a small screen here. Pardon me, Charlie. I do apologize. I don't want to lose you. My finger moved on the screen too fast. So, Charlie's going to do a membership development financial structure to maximize growth. Thank you very much, Charlie.
Yeah, I had planned to give you about a 2-minute report without any confusion in it, and we've had 8 minutes now, and I think all of you are confused. We've got a solid committee, we've got a diverse committee, and we've tackled it with some very important issues in the forefront. A clarification, we've made no decision on anything, so don't assume that we have, but I do think that the board is leaning towards a couple of things. One has been pointed out, selecting a goal to go after to accomplish something, and give you some probabilities. One would be a probability of the Resident Bill of Rights, and maybe just portions of that deal with financial transparency and security of residents' funds. But whatever we go with, the committee will agree on it, and then we will recommend it to the board, and probably give the board a couple of or 3 options to let them make the final decision. In fact, all of our actions are going to result in only a recommendation to the board. Another tendency that we're leaning towards is the possibility of joint memberships and restructuring of dues with a split, some to the state and some to the national organization. But one thing we're going to do in this, we're going to try to protect the current financial structure of NaCCRA and not let it fall off. As you can just, with a quick look, know that these are really monumental tasks, but I think we've got a committee that can work it out, and we're meeting for 2 hours every Monday, and Jack is just doing a yeoman's job on recording and analyzing some of the things that have happened in the meetings and getting them out to all the board members, and we'll continue this. We don't want to do anything in secrecy. We'd like for as much of it as possible that can filter down to residents. I feel good about what we've done so far. I feel good about the participation of the committee members. I probably am going to bring 2 more members in. As you know, some of us lose our health quicker than others, and I'm losing mine, so I'm going to bring a replacement from Florida into this committee as soon as I can get it worked out with him. That probably is going to be a candidate for the board when it's time for me to step aside. And maybe one other state president, because I want to get as much big boy or big girl leadership on this as possible. But we will keep the board continually informed, and we'll continue to work on it. I don't anticipate any firm decisions before the beginning of the new year.
Okay.
Do you have any questions for us?
Yeah, Charlie, this is the moderator. Do you have, would there be an interim report for us when we gather face-to-face in Washington, D.C. in mid-March?
We're looking for a recommendation at that meeting.
All right. Well, thank you. And thank you very much for your political savvy and reaching out to strengthen the committee with both help from engaging Florida, but also to, as you say, getting some of the big boys and big girls in the loop so we can be as stronger groups. And, of course, it goes without saying that Jack Cummings keeping a record and keeping us sharp and analyzing things is invaluable. So I thank you very much. Now, questions to Charlie about this financial restructuring of membership. Charlie, I think you mesmerized the whole bunch. I can't believe that you. All right, are we going to move on to the next thing? I mean, okay, let's go on. Bennett, are you there still?
Yes, sir.
Okay, can you unmesmerize or take this bylaws amendment thing and acting in between meetings so we're clear? We're going to clarify that.
Well, I guess we'd have to look at a couple of things. That the bylaws committee itself, obviously had its own meeting in Boston, and the membership committee, although it hasn't gone into the bylaws discussion per se, it will effectively have an impact, very likely, in terms of what bylaws provisions may ultimately be adopted. So just make a notation of that in terms of future activity. If we talk about, the delegating to the board the authority to act, I think that lack of a better term, we have some individuals, not necessarily on the board, that believe that the bylaws don't authorize that, and I think, quite frankly, that's an interpretation issue. I know what the intent is. I believe in terms of the intent is that the board has always had the authority to act, because it's a policy-making board. This is not a House of Delegates type governance structure where you have people all across the country that effectively control the policies and activities of NaCCRA, the organization. However, there are some individuals that think the bylaws are a little gray on that. So my professional opinion is, at the very least, that the board, effectively adopt a policy statement, knowing that a bylaws revision is coming.
Yeah.
That in the meantime, you adopt a policy statement that says the founders of NaCCRA, as well as the leadership of NaCCRA up until this point in time, have always intended that NaCCRA's board be the policy-making board for the organization, and therefore, based on the intent of the bylaws, have authority to act on behalf of the organization and I would leave it at that. The least, and the point of taking that kind of policy statement is that you as a group unequivocally agree to that premise, and that you yourselves are not confused that you have to get authority from anybody outside of the board to actually do your work. I know that's kind of long-winded, but I did that on purpose.
All right. Well, thank you very much. Let me ask this. Is there somebody in the board that would like to encapsulate Bennett's point of view, which is the prevailing practice of NaCCRA, into a motion so it's spread upon our minutes, that the board's interpretation is that they have the authority by reason of history and intent to make policy, and the bylaws committee, when it reports, will clarify that.
This is Charlie Polk. I move that the board accept the intent that has always existed in NaCCRA from the beginning, that the board is a policy-making board and has the authority to change policy when in the best interest of the organization.
All right, second to that?
I'll second it, Jean Hurley.
Oh, okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay. I didn't hear any no's.
Okay, have a question? Vote on it?
All right. Yeah, sure. Jack.
If the board didn't, who would else do it?
Nobody.
Well, that's like
Jack.
Yeah.
Pardon? Go ahead.
I think the answer to Jack Snyder's question is that at one time, when we would have the general membership meetings, we would have, I started to say spurious, but I don't want to insult anybody, but spurious motions from the floor. For example, we had a motion by one member. We were meeting in a CCRC. Almost all of the people present were residents in that particular CCRC only, and we had a motion that we put out a consumer guide within 6 weeks. That was seconded, voted on, and approved, and that then was binding, because that was that's the General Assembly, and it is referring to. So I think that's the issue that we're addressing. So Jack's question, who would do it if the board doesn't do it? When there's a general meeting, somebody can make motions and enact them right on the spot under the way I think that's what the issue is.
But we act on those motions the way that we would anyway. The intent is that, you know, we continue to carry on business as usual. And if somebody makes a motion and we vote it in, that's business as usual.
Okay, thank you for the clarification. I couldn't imagine it any other way than board.
Anyway. And it also goes to the point, like I was in Indianapolis, trying to build resident participation in our meetings next year. In Nashville, if you recall, we had no residents from the local CCRCs, whereas in Denver we had like maybe 82, I counted. So from year to year, and in Green Spring, it was all Green Spring people, or well, there were a few from other Virginia communities. Anyway, let's move on to the next item, which is the leading age. And we have been asked, or we have voted that we're going to have representatives for a joint committee to explore our relationships. I have proposed a motion that has evolved over 2 or 3 weeks that that Jack Cummings can be our liaison and communicate with them to discover a time frame in January or February when we could join with them in a joint committee. And I think the 3 people that need to go are Jack as the liaison.
Would you clarify which Jacks, please?
I'm sorry, but Cummings. Cummings is the liaison to leading age.
All right.
Everybody on board with that still?
Yeah.
And the 3 issues that are going to come up
the
are...
other 2 people who are there.
Well, the three issues, let's talk about the issues first. The three issues that we're going to deal with is advocacy. What can we work on together with Leading Age? 2 is going to be how can we foster with Leading Age cooperation with Leading Age affiliates in states, and 3 is how can we work with Leading Age in developing our membership. And so after about 3 or 4 weeks of mulling this, Jack clearly is the one that is the liaison and is the advocacy person. Walt Boyer is the president-elect, and we need the continuity of that with this committee. And 3, I'm the one that's been working on membership for the last 3 years. So membership, working with Leading Age in states, and advocacy. So those 3 people are the people that I think need to be there. So I'm
that if Jack is the liaison, he should decide what help he needs. Did Jack suggest the other people?
Well, I'm just saying that that from the chair's point of view, the 3 things that are needed are membership, advocacy, and working with states. And in my view, as the moderator, those are the 3 people that are most suited and have the most experience in those areas.
I thought there was a great deal of interest in Jack being the liaison, and if he needs more help with the areas that you've outlined, then he can ask for it. I don't see why they take away the responsibility of the liaison to decide what kind of help he needs.
Yep.
You know, leadership points the responsibility. Jack has been given the responsibility, and he better deliver on it. Now, how is he going to do it? That's his decision.
Yep.
There was mention in the correspondence from Minix about a task force made up of equal numbers of members from Leading Age and NaCCRA. So if a task force is going to be developed, Jack Cummings will know that. And what we're talking about is the composition of the task force. If it becomes a 3-member task force, then it'll be Walt and Bob and Jack. If it's a 2-member task force, they'll have to decide which 2.
This is Jack. Thank you, Gene. I think that the joint task force is going to be a joint task force, so we can't say, well, the things that we're interested in are advocacy, cooperation, membership. That would have to be jointly determined. I think the critical thing here is on their side, the providers are business people. We need to have people with that particular background to earn the respect so that the group comes together as a cohesive whole. And I'd like to ask Charlie Polk, because he has experience with such a joint task force in Florida, how it works. I understand that Bob, and I also recognize that Bob and Walt are very involved with their existing duties. We can't ask the president and president-elect to do all the work of the whole group.
Right.
But Charlie, what's your experience there in Florida?
We each year the existing task force members get to submit items that they feel should be discussed for the upcoming legislature. After all 6, there's 3 providers and 3 residents.
Before you go further, what are the qualities that make for a successful resident representative?
They must, first of all, have absolute respect for the providers. Okay. And not go into the group with a chip on their shoulders or a bone to pick over some personal item that's occurred between them and a provider.
In Florida, are the top officers automatically the members of the task force?
No. For example, Bennett is always an advisor to the residents. The Leading Age CEO is always an advisor to the providers on the task force. and sometimes the president of the Florida organization will be on the task force, but not always. You look, I think the organization looks for the 3 best people that are willing to do it. I like to think that because they picked me.
Yeah, right. Yeah, all right.
I wonder,
Other comments?
Yeah, I wonder if we shouldn't defer this item until we've talked with Leading Age and get some sense of how they're choosing representatives and what they're looking for.
I think that's an excellent suggestion. Right now, Jack Cummings is the liaison to
that's good.
Leading Age, and he'll let us know.
Let's have Jack do that. What I want to put before him, though, is what Charlie said, is that the people who are on the task force need to have the creds, if you will, of being affirming of the role of the providers without a chip on their shoulder. Dan Seeger had a big chip on his shoulder, and even in Larry Minnick's office, kind of set Larry Minnick's off. So that's one. Number 2, I hope we can identify when Jack communicates with them the importance of our membership growth. And I have been in 3 different state leading age offices dealing with membership, and each of them has been a very affirmative, in Charlie's words, affirming that relationship. So that's why I came to the conclusion. Now, Jack can ask them who they're going to have, but if we're going to have somebody from NaCCRA dealing with partnerships with the leading age, Walt is a natural, and if we're going to deal with membership, I need to be involved just because that's been where I've been for the last 3 years, growing the membership.
Yeah, the membership of NaCCRA is not a mission of Leading Age. It's a mission of NaCCRA.
But Gene, the membership of NaCCRA depends heavily on a working relationship with Leading Age that opens doors, as they have just done for me in Indianapolis with Leading Age
right.
India.
Okay,
So, but I mean, that's what I'm saying, and it was a very positive experience. We have now a model of how that works, and it came out of the meeting in Naperville at Monarch Landing, and Jack was there with Sharon Sullivan, who says, "Well, I'll just set that up for you." Mm-hmm. Well, that's what we need, is that partnership where Leading Age will just set that up for you. We'll set up something in Kentucky or Illinois or Iowa or something, and open doors for us.
Yeah,
I think that's an excellent point that Bob is making. I don't think it's part of the joint task force. I think that's a separate partnership with Leading Age, and we clearly are building a relationship with Leading Age. We're not just creating a joint task force. The joint task force it may have a different purpose. We need to develop that.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, the first meeting, Jack, as I understand it, is going to be an exploratory meeting. I mean, once we do the email exchanges of who are you going to send, who can we send to match who you're going to send, the first meeting is going to be exploratory. How would it be if we worked in this area? How would it be? What would it look like if we did this? So it's not going to be a definitive, but an exploratory.
I think
so. I leave it to you.
Going to be how you build your relationship with Katie Sloan, and
that's right.
That's separate from the joint task force. Your personal relationship with Katie Sloan. If that's positive, then all will be well. If that goes off into the weeds, then that'll be a lost opportunity.
I promise to take any chips I have. Okay, but I do think that I need to meet Katie Sloan. I mean, at least at the initial first NaCCRA Leading Age, not to have the president there is to say to Katie, I mean, never mind. It's just it befuddles me as to how the president would not be involved in so important an overture at the beginning.
Then he should be the liaison. I mean, if that's the case, then the president should be the one who's the liaison.
No,
not necessarily.
Oh, yes, Charlie.
I don't think that's it. I think there's a confusion going on here between the Joint Task Force, which may have a purpose, and our overall relationship with Leading Age.
Exactly.
Those two things are being conflated, and they're not the same. So But why don't we just defer this? We need the discussion. I think that we're not ready to make decisions on this at this time.
Okay, let's move on to the next item.
Could I ask one question? Has anybody been in touch with Katie Sloan? No. I know I saw her on the stage. That's the only time we had an opportunity to say. I just wondered if any of our members have met her.
Yes, I've been in touch with her.
Oh, good.
I called her and congratulated her on assuming the role of CEO president.
But it may be indicative that she has taken no initiative to open. All of the communication with leading ages of late has been through Larry Minix. We have not heard from Steve Mock, and we've not heard from Sloan. So I think that falls to Bob Nicholson to build a relationship there, whether it can be done, because it takes two to make a relationship.
That's correct. Yeah. You're right. Well, and I agree that Bob should work at that.
Has Larry Minix actually retired yet? It was my understanding he was retiring at the end of this year, that he's still the president until the end of December.
Correct.
So Katie Sloan...
She has not yet taken over yet.
Right.
Okay, ready to move on?
Yeah.
Okay, we're going now to the advocacy agenda, and that's Jack Cummings.
Oh, okay.
What did we resolve on the last issue?
Well, that Jack is going to be in touch with Leading Age and see who they're sending, and we're going to see what they're doing and what is the best approach to the first meeting with Leading Age.
And you're going to woo Katie Sloan.
Well, yeah, as best I can.
Okay. All right.
All right. On the advocacy, I think that's been a major focus, as it should be, within the Charlie Polk Committee. We have the survey results. They were clear. They clearly indicated that people wanted the bylaws thing to continue, but somehow that's. I thought we decided that in Boston, but I noticed that it's on the agenda for today further on. But I mean, not bylaws, Bill of Rights. I meant Bill of Rights. Senior moment there.
Sorry.
So, but I think we're focusing in on that, getting something simple, something achievable, with a price tag, and trying to move forward with it. And we'll let Charlie's committee come up with a recommendation for the board, and they've been influenced by the survey that we had.
Okay. Anything else to add on the advocacy?
Yeah, it was Walt Boyer. I agree with what Jack has said. He's got the right approach, and we need to focus on one or two things. But in terms of marketing our advocacy program, I think we need to add the fact that we have been working a number of things in the past, and including among those are the 10 model laws that we have with the NAIC. Though Jack put those together, I got credit for a lot of it, but it was really Jack's work, and those are presently dormant. I'm not suggesting that we move on them right away, because if we don't have the clout right now to do that, that's one of the reasons we need a lot more membership to get that clout. But I do think for marketing purposes and trying to increase our membership, we need to point out that we have those 10 laws, give a quick summary of them, say that we are working those in the background, as well as that one or two items that are our main focus at the present time.
I agree with that wholeheartedly. Every time I go to a meeting, I hand out copies of the model laws, the Bill of Rights.
Okay. Anything else?
Mr. President, Charlie Polk.
Yeah.
I hear what the last two speakers have said, but we are greatly handicapped now because we no longer have NaCCRA to go to. I would say over the last several years, that was a website I went to 10-1 versus our own NaCCRA website, and we need that information back.
It's really
How can you do that? Jack Cumming, didn't we reinstitute NaCCRA when I was interim president? And is that still in sight, or is that still underway?
Yeah, we got a lot of objection from Jennifer Young, particularly. She was the leader of it, but Martha Marks says that she's the sole webmaster, and so I decided that this is not. We don't want contention. We don't need to have.
We have to have the source, and that was such a great source, NaCCRA.
Well, it's going to be rebranded away from NaCCRA. What Martha Marks and that group say, and I can't argue with it. They say NaCCRA should have a single website, a single web presence. They feel that the material in NaCCRA was far too extensive, that most members don't have the interest in all of that, and so we're going to rebrand it. It'll take me a couple of months to rebrand it away from NaCCRA, and it'll be available, but it just won't be available under the NaCCRA brand.
That defeats the whole purpose. That's what we were selling is NaCCRA as benefits that it offered.
That's again, and I think something that we need to delegate to the president to work with the webmaster so that there's
when does the webmaster call the shots for the organization? I've never heard of that.
Yeah.
Well, the webmaster calls the shots for the web.
Well, that's the execution level, not the strategic level. I would hope that's the case.
Yeah,
or we are dysfunctional.
That's the thing that the president will have to have on his agenda.
All right.
Absolutely.
All right. Thank you for the hot potatoes, and I've got them here on my desk. Well, how about this? Let me run this by you since I'm out here on a limb by myself. What if I communicated with Martha Marks that the board reviewed carefully and thoroughly the great work she's doing as the webmaster for NaCCRA. We also heard an outpouring of support for NaCCRA as a database that supports NaCCRA's mission. They are two different functions. One, as we see, NaCCRA.com is the official NaCCRA website, and we see NaCCRA as a resource for documents and information that supports our mission.
Absolutely.
Yes.
But I mean, help me. Is that see, I don't have somebody to run this by. I mean, you're the people that need to
define her role. Is it strategic or tactical?
Yeah.
I would say the board is strategic, and we have a webmaster. She's got to execute what the board wants, not the other way around.
In other words, I appreciate strategic and tactical. What I'm trying to do is get some words together here to give some emotional and relational content to the. I mean, it's one thing to say you're tactical, we're strategic, and that's true. But what I want to do is, because Jack is sensitive to we don't need the conflict, and just to kind of lay it out that there was a thorough discussion and there was an overwhelming feeling of appreciation for what she's doing as tactical, but strategically we need, and we have found in different parts of the country, people turning to NaCCRA for documents and stuff that's not appropriate for the NaCCRA.com. So I need to hear that as an approach to Martha Marks.
I think you can add, Bob Waltboyer, that it is a resource that is critical to the functioning of our committees.
And I agree 180%. Ruth Walsh here.
Okay.
That's why we put it back in.
All right.
Mr. President, Charlie Parker again. Don't overlook your expert in these matters, Mr. Bennett Napier.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I guess if you want me to echo in, Mr. President, I mean, I concur with the sentiments of the board. The webmaster can make a suggestion, but can't make a directive. Can't make a directive. So I think everything that's been said is accurate, and you can just tactfully and professionally say thank you for the suggestion. We don't agree with it. We're going to maintain a reference as appropriate with NaCCRA for all the reasons that you've already articulated.
Please do.
And that we want a clear link on NaCCRA.com to NaCCRA-U for further information in these areas. Go to NaCCRA-U.
Yep, absolutely.
Excellent.
Okay, what I'm hearing, Jean Hurley here, is that Martha Marks is the webmaster of NaCCRA.com, and Jack Cummings is the webmaster of NaCCRA-U. And the two of them have worked out a working relationship. And now the board wants to overrule that relationship and say that Jack should, that there should be a revival of whatever Jack is doing, however he's going to call it. I think that we should leave it up to Jack to go ahead and make whatever changes he feels are necessary, and then bring it before the board, because it's not going to be NaCCRA-U anymore. It's going to be something else, and he hasn't told us what it's going to be.
Well, it would be active aging advocacy.
It would be what?
Active aging advocacy.
The point was that I think you've got to remember, Martha Marks is a volunteer. She's willing to do what she's willing to do. She's not willing to do more. She's an expert in WordPress. She's not an expert in internet programming. She knows how to deploy WordPress templates. She doesn't know how to do full web development. So, and she's a volunteer, and she wants to be in charge of that. So you say, well, you have to act as or direct. She'll say, yourself another webmaster. And so
but nonetheless, NaCCRA-U is such a valuable tool.
I think if Bob talks with Martha, reason will prevail.
I hope so.
In other words, Martha, we like what you're doing. Keep on doing it. But we have another resource called NaCCRA-U. We have promoted it. We've handed out flyers on it. People turn to it, and we'll make a link to it, but don't worry about it.
So what I'm hearing the board, what I'm hearing the board saying is that they do not like to have the name changed to Active Aging Advocacy. They don't want NaCCRA-U to become Active Aging Advocacy. You know, we could certainly promote both websites equally. They don't both have to have the NaCCRA name in them. We can promote NaCCRA.com and Active Aging Advocacy, which is Jack's title.
We've spent 5 years with NaCCRA-U and getting it in place, and now all of a sudden we're going to change the name.
Why not?
Just for the name change?
Why don't we change the name? Recommend to change the name of Hershey bars as well.
You're right. I'm sorry.
We're short on money, and now we want to try to rebrand and encourage people to go to that. It doesn't make any sense as a business.
No, it doesn't.
Yeah, but just what I'm hearing is that the relationship between Martha and Jack is important. And I don't think that the board should overrule Jack's relationship with Martha.
Unless you know what that relationship is, why don't we let Bob handle the relationship matters? He's very skilled at that.
That's fine. That's fine. We just don't want Martha Marks to say, throw in the towel and say, forget it. You take care of everything.
Well,
your diplomatic skills.
I spent 2 hours with Martha Marks last week in El Castillo, so I have some kind of relationship, and she knows that I'm a real person, care about her, and respect what she's doing. And I think I have enough of a foundation to do this.
Go for it. I'll see what you can do.
All right. Are we ready to move on?
Please.
Yes.
All right. My computer screen just went dark, so what's the next thing here?
Sponsorship.
Bill of Rights. Oh, no, sponsorship.
Yep.
Yeah, sponsorship, where we were talking about somebody like Sonetco or some foods do a sponsorship of a lifeline to help the budget. and Bennett's going to report on that.
Yes, sir, Mr. President. I shared with the Secretary, Mr. Ratcliffe. I apologize, but I'm going to need to defer that to our next call. I've been focused on the membership committee activities and just haven't gotten all my ducks in a row to give you a formal proposal and analysis to consider.
Can we just for to keep keep the subject active in the minds of the board? The idea was that as we do our strategic planning, that and to look at, in light of Jack Cummings, somebody's got something going on that's interrupting here. All right. There's something interrupting the call. I'm sorry, and I don't know how to handle this. What do you think, Bennett's going on here?
I think Bob may have his speakerphone on.
Right, somebody's got a speakerphone on.
Yes.
So anybody who's using a speakerphone should pick up and use their handset.
All right, let's keep. Anybody got it? Bob Nagel, are you there?
Yes. I'm sorry, I'm late.
Do you have a speakerphone on?
Yes.
Turn it off. Thank you. It was.
It's still there.
No, it's not a speakerphone.
I guess.
Did you get it turned off, Bob? Bob?
I thought so. I'll just sign off. I'm so late. Okay.
I don't think it's Bob Nagel.
That must have been it.
Yeah, that was it.
Well, I'm sorry. I'm very sorry about that.
We should drive directors out of the meeting.
Well, how Kim? Can you call him back on a different line and ask him to sign in again, not using the speakerphone?
Sure, absolutely.
And tell him that we love him and we want him in. But the interruption it closed down the call.
Okay, I'll call him right now.
All right. Anyway, let me remind the board that the reason for this sponsorship. The reason for this sponsorship, as I understood it, was that as we move into the new day, if you will, of membership and revising dues, that we might have some additional strain on the budget. Jack Cummings has pointed that possibility out, but to take the strain off the budget, we find a way to get an issue or two or three or more of Lifeline underwritten by a sponsor, who in turn would be given a 500-word article in Lifeline on food service or a wellness product or something in return for the $2,500 or whatever the cost is of the issue of Lifeline. And so that's what this was about. And Bennett was going to explore what the market cost would be and what income we could expect and what the terms of such a contract with a sponsor would be. So is that about correct, Bennett?
That is correct, yes, sir.
Okay, let's then move on to the next subject.
May I comment on what you just said?
Sure, you can.
One of the things that we talked about in the other meeting dealt with maybe reducing the number of lifelines printed, because giving people an option. Most of the magazines I get, for example, are all online instead of the paper. I don't need magazine in my small apartment here. I just don't need more magazines. I could go back and research them. I even get the daily newspaper done that way. That's the trend. That's the way things are going. The younger people coming in don't want paper. So we might want to expand the sponsorship to things not only covering leading age, but, Lifeline, but other things as well. Broaden the sponsorship to cover more things, because I believe we will, in the future, nearby in the future, see it's very obvious we don't need to spend that amount of money on printing.
Thank you, Jack. And I think that will be in Bennett's consideration, because as I got it from Charlie's comments, that in revamping approach to membership and dues, we could say, $10 or something for NaCCRA dues and $15 if you want the print issue of Lifeline. So we acknowledge that new reality in the way we structure what we're going to do. So you're on target, and so that's make a note. Thank you very much. Let's go to the Bill of Rights. Someone help me here. From where did we leave this when we last met? I'm a little hung over here and foggy. Where were we? We said, I understand that
it had been passed by the board, and I guess for further action, whatever.
Well, no. As I understand, the Bill of Rights that was featured in Lifeline, that was a result of Dan Seeger's project, was not passed by the board.
Yes, it was.
Yes, it was.
Yes, it was.
No. Hear me out here. It was voted that Dan Seeger's report go to the membership, but the Bill of Rights that he proposed was not an approved Bill of Rights that the board was recommending to the membership. Now, help me out here.
Jack Cumming, do you remember? Because we had this discussion.
Hi, Kim. Welcome back.
Thank you. I called him. I don't know if he understood or not, but I think I confused him, but he's going to try back.
All right.
Okay.
Okay. We still have the chatter on the line, but if we can move it. I'm going to have to leave pretty soon myself because I have a lunch appointment. But anyway, you asked where we left it. We agreed that the board did adopt something in May, but further work was needed on it. There's still considerable correspondence from around the country about matters this, and the idea was that as soon as a person appears suitable to chair that committee, the president would appoint such a person with the consent of the board, and that person would then form a committee to work further to refine the Bill of Rights, to move to have it implemented, to discuss issues of enforcement, which are very big issues. So it was left in the hands of the president to find a chair for that committee.
Yeah, that's what I understood, and I sent an email to the board saying that such a group should include both a person who's been involved in a state that has adopted a Bill of Rights, Connecticut, New Jersey, etc., and states like Washington where they're working on a Bill of Rights, and places like New Mexico where the people at El Castillo had drafted a Bill of Rights and sent it to Dan Seeger for input and had not gotten an acknowledgement, or so they're eager to do something. So we need people on the task group from 3 or 4 different stages of Bill of Rights development, but led by somebody in a state that's done it. And I don't have enough experience being out here on the edge of civilization to know who is that best person. So I need your help to find that person.
Well, this is Walt Boyer. I'd like to make a motion, if I may.
All right.
And that is that we ask the president to convene a new committee on residents' rights as soon as possible, and that they publish a Bill of Rights as soon as possible, with the proviso that it is a work under continuing review and amendment and addition, that it as new ideas and concepts come into play, they will be considered and reviewed for possible inclusion in the future.
Is there a second?
I can't.
Nobody likes it.
Walt, that was an overwhelming endorsement. Did you feel that?
Yes.
I mean,
well,
anybody else?
I think we need to put something out, and then we need to say it's a work in progress somehow. That it isn't final, but it's something we can recommend to the states that they can start to use.
I thought that was
something to use.
Yeah, we passed on Dan's. I thought in that spirit that it was a work in progress, and this where we were at this point in time.
Dan insisted that it be included in Lifeline the way that it was printed out. 17 items. It was in Lifeline, and didn't say it was a work in progress. It said this is the Bill of Rights that NaCCRA adopted.
Okay, so that has been done.
It has been done. It was done right.
And no reaction.
Okay, but
well, there were two reactions. One was in New Mexico at El Castillo, saying, "Hey, we communicated with Seeger and he didn't pay any attention or use anything we sent." And the other was Larry Minnick said, "I wished you to talk to me about this because I have some objections to stuff in this." So there was no collaboration that way. And I think we, while we're independent, but it's good to collaborate.
If we had it all polished, so we loved what it said, what would we do with it?
We'd send it out in Lifeline to all the members to say, this is where we are at this point. We commend it to you for your work, and it's a work in progress.
But the way it's been working
against establishing a better relationship with Leading Age in the process, is it worth it?
Well, I think we can listen to what Leading Age has to say.
Absolutely.
Doesn't mean we have to accept what they say.
Correct. Yeah. I agree with that. The point is, why wave a red flag in front of them when we're trying to get back in their good graces?
Yeah, okay. Your point's well taken.
I think here's where a little diplomacy will go a long way. That we can here's where we can do a little diplomacy with Leading Age and just kind of have a sidebar. We're also working on some Bill of Rights, and say to Katie Sloan or whoever's going to be there, would you kind of give us your feedback on how does this sound to you as a provider, rather than this is something we're going to do and.
Yeah, and I would say that should be done somewhere downstream and not in the initial discussions with.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's right.
But one of the things that did happen, that I do recall now, is that Larry did send a letter out saying, I think he did say a letter saying he was disappointed with one of the provisions. I don't remember what it was.
Mr. President Charlie Polk, I can tell you that Larry Minnick and I, over several years, had met annually, and one very hot issue nationally, we agreed to a policy that we both supported residents on the board of provider organizations, but to be elected as voluntarily desired by each community and not mandated. And this we had done several times over several years. And I'm sure that might be if it was one issue.
That might have been the point, Charlie.
Well, I think perhaps you ought to just give Larry a call and ask him what his objection was, and see if we can find some way of resolving it between us.
Okay.
I can tell you one of the objections because it exists in the state of Florida. We brought it up on 2 or 3 years on the task force, and it's a very polarizing problem for the providers, and they don't think the timing is right for it. They all realize that baby boomers want this and things are going to have to change, but now is not the time. And that's been Larry's position all along. Let's don't bring on a fight that nobody can win when it's not necessary.
Well, that also goes to the point of Jack Snyder's thing. Let's don't fly a red flag in their face when we're just trying to get off the ground, and let's kind of ease into it.
And each state is unique unto itself, so that you couldn't have a universal. We found that in Connecticut, and Massachusetts the same. So you have to do and consider each state individually, because you're just not going to be able to mandate for 50 states.
So this item on the agenda, it says, does the board wish to continue to have an active Bill of Rights committee? And why not have an active committee, somebody who's meeting regularly on this or somebody who's dealing with this? That doesn't mean that it has to be resolved. It just means they continue to think about it and work on it.
I think my proposal is that we defer this to a future time and give the joint committee or the joint task, what do you want to call it, with Leading Age, time to get together, and let's each try to formulate a way to approach this that is ironic in nature, that will build trust between us and move us down the road.
Right.
So moved.
I agree.
All right. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye.
It's going on. All right. Okay. I have this computer. It's a what do you call it? It's an iPad, and every time we get into a discussion, it goes to sleep. And I haven't gone to sleep, but it has.
Mm-hmm.
Consideration of further directors, and I think here I sent to the board that our board is at a size that
11.
Most of us feel is adequate, and some of us feel is even too large. And with the budget constraints that we are facing, my recommendation is we defer this item or not act on anything here.
Well, the current bylaws state 11? Or
yes, they do.
Yeah.
They say 9 to 11, don't they?
Huh?
9. It says 9 to 11. Yes.
9 to 11.
And so we are consistent with our bylaws. I'm just saying let's don't push the envelope, because we need to do this wonderful thing about vetting or getting people with financial public relations business experience. I think there we can move ahead, and my recommendation was we ask Jack Snyder to begin framing something that we could look at as a board in terms of how we'd approach in the next year, 2, 3, or 4, identifying both by skill set and geography people. But like if we got all this stuff coming up, advocacy with the medical, Medicare issues, we need some background there. We need some background particularly with communications and public relations, and we need to always keep the finance thing. So, Jack, would you be willing to give it a shot at a kind of a draft of how we could approach this topic?
Yeah, I don't think it's a one-person's job to do that, but to be active in a committee that moves in that direction, I'd be happy to be involved.
Could I suggest 2 or 3 names to you? And one is here in Seattle, Alan Affleck, who is an actuary that we wanted on the board. He's a solid thinker. Another would be your friend that was from Maryland. Bill, help me here. The president of the community there outside of Baltimore.
You're not talking about Root. Bill
No.
Root? No.
No, I'm not talking about Bill Root.
No.
Oh, Jim, are you talking about Jim
Hennessy? Yeah, right. There would be two people.
Yes, he'd be wonderful.
See, now there would be 2 people from 2 different geographical regions with 2 different engagements. One, Alan Affleck is involved in the heart of Washington State NaCCRA, and Bill Hennessy is involved in Maryland as a community person, and both have some good backgrounds. Would something like that be a help to you?
Oh, absolutely.
Oh yeah, you'd have a good team.
Well, let's just. I'm feeling my way along here. Suppose I say
that you contact those people, tell them what we want to do, and formulate it, and let us decide who the chairman will be if they say yes.
Well, that's fine.
Let us the chairman who's going to drive it, because it's going to be based on who's the most enthusiastic about this. I bring something to it. I don't bring the whole 9 yards. And so let's take a look at those 3, and once we know what our objective is, okay, are we the right ones to do this, and how are we going to go about it? And we'll roll on.
I think the three of you can answer. I think the three of you can answer that question. I will then get. I will put the three of you in touch and make my pontifical appointment and see what happens.
You get a good team working. You're working on a good team there.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Now, before
before we go on,
go ahead.
This Walt Boyer, I have I owe the people that were on the list that did not get elected to the board a letter indicating their status. And if we're not going to add members of the board right now, I think we owe them a letter of that sort. What I'd like to do is draft a letter for you, Bob, that simply says we're going to keep the board at its present status or present size for a while, and we would like to keep their names in the hopper for consideration. We'd also like to be able to draw on them for various committees from time to time, and hope that they will continue to be active with NaCCRA and that sort of thing.
I think that excellent. Let's make that an official. Somebody, I move what Walt said, and somebody second it, and let's. So when he writes, he can, and we all agree. But we can say the board has reviewed the election, and we want to express to you our appreciation for, and here are the results, and here's the reason we're holding the board at 9, and then what he said. So it becomes a corporate expression of thanks, drafted by Walt and sent by me.
Yeah. That's wonderful.
Everybody on board with that?
Yep.
Yeah.
Good idea.
Gene, was that you that,
all right.
Who seconded that?
Gene did.
Yes. Did. Okay, thank you.
Mr. President, I would suggest that we also have somewhere in the archives of NaCCRA a listing of individuals, which includes what they did, what their areas of interest are, and the kind of things that we'd like to know about people who are interested in NaCCRA, people who bring certain skill sets based upon what they used to do in their earlier life, and that kind of thing as an ad hoc, not advisory board, but prospective list of members for various committees, because I think we're going to need a lot more volunteer effort than just what the board...
No, we are. No, we are.
Do we have...
a good example.
Go ahead.
No,
you go ahead.
All right.
Go ahead. We have what?
Well, for example, in talking to Jim Hennessy, I was telling him about the challenge that Gene has with the Lifeline, and he said, well, I think my wife would be willing to help. She's a professional journalist. And I said, well, first of all, and he said, don't you dare ask her, though, because I haven't told her you know, and then I said, well, I haven't talked to Gene. But, I mean, there are people like that we begin to list of what is our success, in-depth place we can turn to for medical stuff or journalism stuff or
and these are also young and energetic people. And that's
we need those.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, that's a great point. We'll add that to the list. All right, anything else? We're down now to the website. We've dealt with that, and I think we're ready to adjourn.
Before we adjourn, I would like to clarify there's no notice in Lifeline of a meeting in August, a spring meeting of NaCCRA.
In August?
I mean, in March.
March or April, yeah.
Spring meeting.
Yeah.
Well, we don't ordinarily go to the peak conference, so that's been that reasoning. It was later on in the April or May kind of thing. So I don't know.
So
there's nothing that has been established at meeting date or times.
Who is it that made reservations at a hotel and let us all know that we could go there for $139 a night plus tax?
Was that Bob?
Bill Ratcliffe.
No, I do it. Bill's handling it.
Bob set it all up, and I followed through on the admin side on it.
So this was for March the 10th and the 11th.
Yeah, and for a few days
after that.
as well.
Is the peak conference after that?
Peak follows
the peak conference then starts on Monday the 14th.
That's right.
Yes.
Bill, would you like to do something? It could actually.
Where would we meet?
Well, that's
at somebody sent out the hotel registration and said that you have to make reservations before a certain date in order to get it at that rate.
But it doesn't extend for the entire time either, that good rate. I don't think.
I would have to go back and check that. I thought it did, but I'll have to check. There's been a communication breakdown from the hotel. I've tried to contact them on numerous occasions without any success. So I went back to the original marketing person, and they promised to get an action for me in the time.
Was this a bulk reservation that they're holding X number of rooms to a certain time?
They're holding rooms open, but
until
individuals
when?
have to make their reservations. And
how long are they holding those reservations? When do we have to make them? By?
Sometime in February, I think it was. I can look it up and email everybody if you like.
Yeah, that would be important. I think otherwise we'll.
Give us Bill. Give us a memo on that. There are two things I think that Gina is asking. One is to give, or Jack is. Let's give all of us a memo that by this date we need to respond to the hotel for reservations, and two, to put down that the NaCCRA board will meet starting at 10 a.m. or whatever it is on Saturday the whatever, and we'll meet Saturday or start at noon, meet Saturday afternoon, evening, and Sunday morning, and then the board will be finished by 2 o'clock Sunday afternoon or whatever, and then some who choose to stay over.
The reservations were for the 10th and 11th. That's Thursday and Friday.
No, they did agree to extend it, but I just can't tell you without looking it up what the extension.
I think the reservations were for Friday and Saturday, that people would check out on Sunday morning.
I have been putting this out on email for right after I got it, because I wanted to be sure that I got a notice in Lifeline if we're going to have a meeting on Thursday and Friday, and nobody has ever gotten back to me. And I have said repeatedly that I don't see any point in our having a meeting on a Thursday and Friday and then Leading Age having a meeting on Monday and Tuesday. If they have a meeting on Monday and Tuesday, why don't we have a meeting on Monday and Tuesday?
You're not going to get those good hotel rates, you bet.
Oh,
so find out, Bill Radcliffe, what's possible.
I think
that probably we ought to just put this whole thing off. I'm not going to put anything in Lifeline about a spring meeting.
I think that's fine. We can wait till March.
That's right. We don't have. There's no hurry on this. The January, February issue of Lifeline will not take care of any March 10th meeting.
Okay.
So we're going to forget a March 10th meeting.
Well, but we're not going to forget the meeting. Let me repeat what I set up initially and then turned it over to Bill. For people coming in, particularly Friday night, so the reservations for Friday night and Saturday night, 2 nights.
That's not what they were. The reservations that were...
all right. Can I speak, Dean, and tell you what I set up?
Okay.
I set it up for Friday night and Saturday. Bill can confirm this in his email to all of us. So people would be there for Friday night and Saturday night. The meeting would be on Saturday in the daytime, and it can be up to the evening, and would be on Sunday morning through early Sunday afternoon. Leading Age would work with us in getting a meeting site, either comped a hotel room where we could meet, or meet in their office, which is a block away.
That's exactly what I recall, yes.
All right. So Bill is going to now summarize that in an email to everybody, and particularly with Jack Snyder's point, we need a deadline by which we need to make the reservation.
Yes.
Are we all on board there?
Yeah, and the one outstanding thing that I'm still waiting for from the hotel is how do you call in to make your individual reservations?
That's right. That's what we need to know.
And they've promised to get back to me on that, and they have totally failed to do it. And I keep nagging them, and I keep being passed to a new person. But I will keep nagging.
Please do.
Okay, nag away.
So my point is, if we're going to have a meeting in March, on March the 12th, which is Saturday, and the 13th, which is Sunday, there should be a notice in Lifeline that there is a spring meeting of NaCCRA.
Yes.
I mean, this is a membership meeting.
Well, just put it in that. Just put that in without details. That will be at the Woodmark Hotel.
It's a Marriott.
Details to follow.
How does it follow? Just out of curiosity.
Yeah.
Well, it would follow. Are we going to meet in the leading age office, or are we going to meet in the hotel?
That are opposite sides of the road from one another.
Well, how do you? My question is, how do you get that to the people that see it in Lifeline?
Silence reigns.
refer them to the website.
In other words,
I suppose.
If you're going to do any follow-up, it ought to be in the same communication channel, because there could be a resident who says, "Oh, let's go to that," and then they never hear anything more.
Yep.
That was my problem in Nashville.
Who's in charge of this? Who's taking the responsibility for getting this all set up?
What is this?
Right now, it's in terms of the arrangements, is Bill Ratcliffe.
I'm the person who's arranging the follow-through with the hotel to get people to make reservations to stay there. That's it.
And this is for Friday night and Saturday night.
Friday night, Saturday night, and possibility
Thursday
of
night.
reduced.
Is it intended to be a board meeting or a membership meeting?
We don't know.
Now, the date is for Friday the 11th and Saturday the 12th with the hotel with the special rates.
Yep. And have to be out by Sunday noon, I'll bet you.
Yes.
Let me go and check. I'm not going to say out of my head. I'm reasonably sure that it extends beyond that period, but I don't want to say it definitely is until I've checked.
Okay, email me as soon as you get any information.
Well, five people extended beyond that, because I know I've got a commitment for all of the leading age meeting and to call on Congress on Wednesday.
That's right. How are you doing, Charlie? You going to be able to manage mobility-wise?
Yeah, I got a new vehicle that's pretty nice to drive in. I just drive my chair up in it and sit in it all the way up there and watch a movie as we go down the road. And
really, ooh, sounds good.
That sounds good.
I'm also going to participate in the public forum committee for leading age on Sunday afternoon. And I'm going to participate with them in their call on Congress on Wednesday afternoon.
Great news. Excellent.
Great news, Charlie. Well, Bill, will you bring us up to date? And I'm trying to think of how to respond to Jack's further details.
One way to do that would be to say in Lifeline that there will be meetings in D.C. on that Saturday and Sunday. Monitor the website.
Well, I was going to say that's a good idea. Monitor the website.
That's an excellent idea. Yeah.
Okay. All right. I think we got it surrounded there, and Bill's going to send an email that will confirm all that we've said. And once he breaks through the bureaucracy at the Woodmark Hotel, he will let us know.
Yeah.
Mr. President, I would suggest that you consider what Larry Minix has at his disposal, at least for another month, and that's to have a Sharon Sullivan at his elbow, who makes all the arrangements for all of this stuff, and because it's important that it be done. We spent important time at this meeting on it. Somebody else ought to be reporting to us, hearing from you what you want set up, and communicating with us after that. It shouldn't be
in touch with Sharon. No, we will. In fact, she has told me that.
No, you need a NaCCRA equivalent. You need a NaCCRA equivalent of her.
Yeah.
Well, in terms of arrangement in Washington D.C., Bill Ratcliffe is that person.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sharon passed me on to one of her underlings, whose name I can't recall out of my head.
It's Lisa something.
And it's gone round in circles since then. I think we're okay. It's just that it hasn't been finally confirmed.
keep us informed, Bill, please.
Okay.
I certainly will.
Okay. Okay, we're on our way. I think we're at the end of the conference.
Okay.
If I could hold on just a second, I have a message from Bennett. He emailed Jack and Bob, Walt, and Bill his remarks in regards to. Well, you need to read it. It's for the minutes. With the December 1st email from Liz Tiedemann and some other things, he just kind of tied some stuff up for you guys, so he wanted me to make sure that you saw that and that you had that reference for the minutes.
I presume that's Jack Cummings, right?
Yes. I'm sorry,
okay.
Yes.
Okay. Well, that will be a clarifying thing, and he's been extremely helpful to us in this. And by the way, you may light a candle and say a prayer for your president, because I'm having lunch with Jim McLean, who is the advocacy chair for NaCCRA Washington, and Liz Tiedemann, lunch on this Friday.
Fine.
Oh, boy.
Put your patient's hat on.
That's
when
right.
You do. And your tax hat.
I thought I would, since she's never mind, I'm looking forward to it.
Let us know.
No, I'm looking forward to it. No, Liz and I go way back, and we. Okay, Bennett, here, what's in the email?
Speak of the devil.
Sorry, I'm
right.
back. I'm back. I appreciate it.
Liz Tiedemann, if you've got to put her to work doing something.
Well, she is at work. She's one of the. No, she is at work, and she is the most helpful person on the Washington State NaCCRA Advocacy Committee.
Well, when we have kids, they all say, when you have a lemon, make lemonade, so let's make big
That's what we're going to do. Now, Bennett, give us the update on the email clarifying whatever you said in the email.
Okay.
Okay, so that's where you are on the agenda now?
Yeah,
we're finished, and we extended the agenda for your comments.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, let me, if I can, I'll just paraphrase, because not everybody's seen some of the correspondence, because it wasn't addressed to the full board, but I'll just kind of capture two key elements. And, you know, I like the term Jack Snyder used earlier, strategic and tactical. I think you just got to keep using that term and use that consistently, because unfortunately we're in many cases where this board is being pulled on the tactical, and that's obviously some of the frustration we've seen some of the membership about. Are we being strategic enough in nature as a board? But be that as it may, back to the point at hand. You know, we have a life member, very well intentioned, very savvy, that works within the realm of parliamentary procedure, and her premise, really since probably the summertime on a number of issues, has been, are the bylaws clear enough on certain issues, and when they're not clear, Robert's Rules of Order takes over based on the bylaws provision that speaks to Robert's Rules of Order. Now, that's an interpretation, and I'll just that is what it is, and it's an interpretation. So as it regards NaCCRA's board, and specifically a couple of issues of recent nature, the point was raised, and we didn't have really time in Boston to deal with it based on the broader agenda. The point was raised whether or not the board had authority to enter into an agreement with Leading Age or not, based on the tenets of the bylaws. And that question actually goes directly to what you did earlier on today's call, to confirm that the intent and the historical precedent of the NaCCRA board has always been to be a strategic policy-making board, and is the only group of people, effectively that have authority to act on behalf of the organization.
Correct.
And so, by nature of you passing that policy earlier today, I think that allows the board to record in the minutes, and I'll send the language to Mr. Ratcliffe for consideration, is, you know, that action, meaning that policy that you've adopted, would include the authority for the board now and in the future to enter into agreements with any party it chose to do so, as long as obviously a majority vote took place. And you know, that, so thus the action that took place in September was a valid action to actually take. It doesn't have to be retracted, you know, and so that's issue number one. The second issue, you know, that's been suggested is whether or not the NaCCRA board should consider appointing a parliamentarian. That's probably something you could take up at a future meeting if you chose to do so. You know, within the discussions of the bylaws committee, that discussion's already taken place to some extent. You obviously, in any organization, for-profit or non-profit, want to have, I guess I would say, rules and procedures that govern action. What they are is up to the discretion of the organization. And so I think when you have a new bylaws proposal that comes forward, that will adequately address that topic. And you know, that's why I say I'm not sure at this stage the board should entertain appointing a parliamentarian at this stage until you see what your new bylaws might look like and what skill sets you might actually want or need, if that even was a need. So that's a secondary suggestion that's been raised by one of our life members. You know, I think to some extent, based on your policy you adopted earlier, we have a formal response we can submit back to this member.
And we're legal.
Well, I mean, the fact of the matter is, you are, in the IRS eyes, and that's all that matters, you have fiduciary authority to govern the actions of the organization.
Great.
It goes much to your discussion on the webmaster. These are all volunteers. So, you know, on the one hand, you want to be gracious because they're volunteering their time and effort for the betterment of the organization. But at the same time, there's only one board. And so, you know, you can take things or suggestions that come forward from individuals, whether it's an individual or a group of individuals, and then you as the board have to act on them one way or the other.
Mm-hmm.
Ultimately, you make the decision, and, you know, I think, you know, you are in good stead. It doesn't mean somebody can't continue to raise an issue or make inquiries. They have that right to do that. But at the same token, I think at some stage you have to say, you know, we have authority. There is no other body out there that's acting, you know, on the strategic and operational issues for NaCCRA outside the board, and that's like it is in most organizations. So you're not doing something that's unique, you know, as a group. I mean, this is what you're supposed to be doing. So I think there's just differences of opinion, you know, how you're doing it and when you're doing it, those things, but those are all suggestion in nature, I guess. You know, so sorry, Mr. President, long-winded on the commentary, but I think it warrants some you know, deliberation or commentary, because several of you have had to interact on this topic for the last 6 months, you know, as a general nature, and I think kind of putting this to bed one way or the other, at least, if nothing else, in a pronouncement, if you will, might be helpful.
Yep. And I thank you for all of you've done on that score. It's wonderful. And it clarifies greatly. And we're legal.
Okay, any further business? We're one item past adjournment. Are we ready to adjourn? Is there a motion?
Are we going to meet in January, or what? How you the next meeting?
I would guess January would be the next time, and
would be Wednesday, the 6th day of January.
The day the wise men came to the manger.
Yeah, for Epiphany. Yeah.
Mr. President Charlie, could I make one other comment, please?
Sure.
I'd like to commend Bennett Napier. He has met constantly with our membership committee, and he's offered advice to us that we could get nowhere else. And one of the actions that we're moving towards, he even give us a cost analysis of it that has proven to be invaluable. I know he's an extremely busy man, and I also know that we are not paying him for what he's doing with this committee. And Bennett, I for one appreciate your efforts. I know that you're sincere in growing NaCCRA and creating a strong national organization as well as strong state organization. So I just wanted to publicly thank you for that.
And I double that. It was, yes, you've been wonderful, Bennett. Thank you.
Well, you're very kind. Don't need to say it. I appreciate it. You know, you're paying us, and we're happy to do the work. And the bonus I get is having a lot of extra sets of grandparents. So
there you go.
I'm the winner. I'm the winner. So no.
Yeah, bless your heart.
No thanks necessary. Yeah.
Okay,
thank you
Wilson.
So much.
Thank you, Bennett, very much. Okay, the meeting is adjourned, and thank you all, and have a wonderful Advent Christmas.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
See you